Hello and welcome to The Most Wanted. My name's Nick and today we're going to look at the case of Jehad Serwan Mostafa. So this is a name that most of you listening will probably be quite unfamiliar with, but he is in fact the man that the United States authorities call the most wanted American terrorist in the world. So Jehad was born on December the 16th, 1981 in the very small city of Waukesha, Wisconsin, to a Kurdish father and an American mother. I realised halfway through recording that the town is not actually called Waukesha, it is in fact called Waukesha, so Waukeshans, you'll have to accept my apologies for that mistake, and I do apologise to the Native Americans from whom the name Waukesha is derived. Anyway, where were we? So his father, Halim Mustafa Gabori, worked as a security guard and part-time actor, and his mother, Sumaya Mustafa, worked as a teacher. And for those that are interested, his father, Halim Mustafa Gabori, appeared in an uncredited role in the film Three Kings, which starred Ice Cube, George Clooney and Mark Wahlberg, and I'm sure most of you guys can remember that. And he was also the producer of a low-budget film titled Muslim, which explores race relations in the US. And if you look at the trailer on YouTube, it does look pretty terrible. However, what I will say is that Halim, you have created your own film and starred in a Hollywood blockbuster, which is certainly more than what I have achieved myself. So I take my hat off to you. And for those that are interested, here's a clip for you now.
End up in this chair and I gotta get lectured by you?
Yeah, you do.
What are we doing here? Are we trying to fish for some terrorist cell or something?
I be hearing the stories on the street.
This is about what the dean told you, isn't it?
It's everything. For every action, there's always a reaction.
Our country is reacting to your people.
But we are getting away from the point. Slightly back to Jehad. So he was raised in the Serra Mesa region of San Diego, California. Now this was really a world apart from his birthplace in the upper Midwest. For those that don't know, Serra Mesa is one of San Diego, California's best neighborhoods. It has good schools, really great access to downtown San Diego, a lot of nice outdoor spaces, and it's really generally quite a nice place to grow up. And the name Jehad, which is the name that his parents chose, obviously means Arabic for a struggle. Now this might be a word that is a lot more familiar to most of you for its negative connotations, but in reality it's a very common name for a child, and before 9/11 it functioned just like any other given name. For example, there are a multitude of sportsmen across the globe with the name Jehad, including the American footballer Jihad Ward, who plays defensive end for the New York Giants of the NFL. He has actually had to defend his name several times in the press, but unfortunately for him, the name has kind of taken a more kind of sinister turn since 9/11, and he was born sort of 7 or 8 years before that.
You played for Wink in Baltimore, right?
Sure did.
Slight diversion again, but we're going to go back to our Jehad now. So, Jehad had a very normal American upbringing. He was schooled at his local Mesa Community College, and then he went on to study economics at the University of California, eventually graduating in the year of 2005. So it was a very familiar or very common theme amongst his peers. So one female ex-colleague from a mechanic shop he briefly worked at described Jehad as the exact opposite of a terrorist, very kind, very peaceful, very patient, and not at all scary or aggressive. And he came across to most of his friends at university and friends at work as a progressive, peace-loving Muslim. Jehad would often pray at the Islamic Center of San Diego in Kearney Mesa, and the Imam there, Taha Hassan, again, similarly with his peers, expressed complete surprise at Jehad's emerging extremist views, citing that he was, often hanging around with other young people, played a lot of basketball outside, and the Imam said he was very shocked to see Jehad's picture on the news connected with terrorism. So shortly after Jihad's graduation from the University of California at the age of 23 is when authorities believe that he descended into radicalization. So he graduated in 2005 and almost immediately went to Yemen, and it's believed that here he underwent some training and became friends with several Muslims from other Western countries before heading to Somalia at the behest of Al-Shabaab. So Al-Shabaab, translated literally as the Party of the Youth, you might see some synergy with the Taliban, which is translated literally as the students. And Al-Shabaab, for those that don't know, are a multi-ethnic Somali-based Islamic insurgents group that are mainly active in East Africa and Yemen. They came to prominence not long after the Somalia War of 2006 to 2009, and more recently in 2012, they pledged allegiance to Al-Qaeda, though this was not a popular decision across the group and resulted into lots of infighting, but that is where they are now. So Al-Shabaab are infamous for perpetrating the Westgate shopping mall attack in Nairobi, Kenya in 2013 that was blasted across our TV screens, resulting in the deaths of 71 people.
Breaking news on that coordinated terror attack in Kenya, a country popular with American tourists.
Yeah, the hostage crisis in the upscale Westgate Mall is ongoing at this hour.
This morning, the upscale Nairobi Mall is under siege. Gunmen still holding at least 30 people hostage inside. Now, more than 24 hours after the attack began. Authorities believe 10 to 15 attackers are still inside.
From the mall, but a number still remain inside. The operation is very delicate.
It started in broad daylight Saturday afternoon, right as the mall was packed with weekend shoppers. Witnesses say the attackers stormed the building from multiple entrances, lobbing grenades and firing from automatic weapons indiscriminately.
There was shooting on the ground floor, and slowly they're going up and up. The situation is very bad inside.
Kenyan authorities say at least 59 people were killed, at least 175 more injured. Those numbers may still rise. Terrified shoppers ran for their lives. Others hid wherever they could.
The sharp particles entered me into my hand and my leg. There were very many people who were injured.
The Somali militant group Al-Shabaab, affiliated with Al-Qaeda, has reportedly claimed responsibility, saying it was retaliation for Kenya's forces fighting in Somalia. The gunmen made it clear they were there to kill non-Muslims. Witnesses say they had a message for everyone inside.
We are here to rescue only the Muslims. If you are Muslim, stand up and go.
They were also responsible for 2 bombings in Mogadishu in 2011 and 2017, the latter that resulted in 85 deaths, but the former a total of 587 people died as a bomb detonated underneath a hotel, which became the deadliest attack in Somalia's history.
And in the day's other news, more than 300 people are now confirmed dead after Saturday's massive truck bombing in Somalia, one of the world's worst attacks in years. Nearly 400 more were wounded. The government blamed the Al-Qaeda-linked Al-Shabaab group. Rescue crews today searched for survivors at the scene of the bombing, a crowded street in the capital, Mogadishu. With dozens still missing, officials say they expect the death toll to rise.
More bodies are gradually being found and removed from the rubble. There are other people who are under the rubble. We have heard them as they scream for help. My biggest worry is that even the wounded are succumbing to their injuries.
So it isn't known publicly if Jihad was a part of these attacks, but he is believed to be a high-ranking member of the group, close to the decision makers. So he sits in the Amniyat intelligence wing. So in this wing, he serves as propaganda expert, military instructor, and most importantly, an explosives expert. So the FBI say that in this skill, Jihad is group leader. Now, this is pretty, I suppose, impressive because he was among a handful of young Muslims from the US that took high visibility roles within Al-Shabaab. But Jihad, the FBI and American authorities believe, is the highest ranked among them. Mostafa was first indicted in 2010 and has lived life under pseudonyms Emir Anwar, Abu Abdullah al-Muhajir, Abu Anwar al-Muhajir, and most prominently under the pseudonym Ahmed Guri. So new counts against this person accuse him of having key roles in Al-Shabaab activities from 2008 to 2017. But the FBI haven't gone into detail as what these counts directly attribute to. It could be that they attribute to the Westgate shopping centre attack, but we don't really have that information to hand. And for anyone wondering, the nom de guerre al-Muhajir means the migrant and is a common moniker given to foreign terrorist fighters, alongside the likes of al-Britani for British fighters or al-Amriki for American fighters. And much like in this case, foreign-born fighters, particularly American and British, are worth their weight in gold. It's understood that Jehad is protected by Al-Shabaab hardliners and that he directly advises senior leadership on issues relating to strategy, international relations and explosives importation. But most importantly, he helps the group out with audience targeting media campaigns. Jehad was believed to be Ayman al-Zawahiri's right-hand man within the organisation. So al-Zawahiri was the successor to Osama bin Laden, but now, as al-Zawahiri has been recently killed in a drone strike, it's believed that bin Laden's own flesh and blood, son Hamza, is the likely successor. It's likely that Jehad is also in close contact to one of Britain's most wanted fugitives, terrorist Samantha Lewthwaite. She's most commonly known as the White Widow, and her husband was one of the perpetrators of the 7/7 London bombings. It's also suggested that she is also a senior figure within the Al-Shabaab leadership. Jehad is said to have 3 wives and 16 children, and one of his 3 wives is a widow from another Al-Shabaab member, something which is quite common within the group. His family, as mentioned before, is protected by the Al-Shabaab General Security Team, so these guys are tasked with dealing with counter-terrorism, but also generally with protecting valuable foreign fighters. And they and him are believed to be hiding out in the Middle Juba region in the south of Somalia, which is under full control of Al-Shabaab, but has been the source of vicious fighting between militants and Somali government troops over the years. Despite his notoriety, he isn't the most outgoing person and steers clear of video footage. The last unclassified proof of life we have of him was in October 2011, when he appeared at an Al-Shabaab press conference with senior leadership purporting to be an Al-Qaeda emissary. Throughout this event, he praised Osama bin Laden, and you can see some of the footage here.
Whose voice?
We would like to praise the continuous efforts of Harakat Shabab al-Mujahideen, who, while operating under extremely difficult circumstances, have made it their priority to help their Muslim brothers and sisters with exceptional dignity and grace, and have risen above the lies and deceit circulated by the hypocritical Western media.
He doesn't publish his activity within Al-Shabaab and stays very clear of any communication. This has most likely helped him evade terrorist hunters for so long, though several sources say that 4 years ago in 2018, Jehad narrowly avoided capture in a US-led ground operation in Somalia. He's described by federal agents as being 6'1" and around 170 pounds. He's blue-eyed with a light complexion. Jehad speaks Arabic, Somali, English and basic Kurdish. He is left-handed and also has a distinctive scar on his right hand. The Department of State's Rewards for Justice program is offering a massive $5 million reward, leading to the arrest and conviction of Jehad Serwan Mostafa. So guys, if you're ever in Somalia, in Middle Juba, and you see Jehad Mostafa taking out the bins, call it in. Thanks for listening, guys, and we will see you next time for another episode of The Most Wanted.